My name is Carlton Ward Jr., and I'm a conservation photographer. I'm also an 8th generation Floridian with strong connections to Florida's wild heart. My purpose through my photography and storytelling is to connect people with lands that are unseen, overlooked, and forgotten by much of the state and country. I hope you'll join me to discover these places, and I bet you will fall in love with them the same as I have. My particular focus is the Florida Wildlife Corridor, which is a program I founded with scientists and colleagues back in 2010 to raise awareness for a statewide vision that can keep all of our wildlands connected. Without wildlife corridors connecting those places, the wildlife that live there will not have the room they need to survive. This is Autobahns Corkscrew Swamp, which is the largest old-growth cypress forest left in America. When I'm wading through a cypress swamp, I love to notice all the details. I really am drawn to the texture of the cypress bark, where you can follow it from the water line all the way up 50, 60, 100 feet into the canopy above. Many of these trees are over 20 feet in circumference, 100 feet tall, and over 500 years in age. These forests are actually some of Florida's most important wetlands. These cypress forests provide tremendous habitat for the Florida Wildlife Corridor, and the animals that use these swamps vary throughout the year. When the water is high, it's critical for bears and fish and wading birds and alligators and otters. And the black bears and the panthers and the deer, they graze and they forage around the edges. When the water dries down, these become wildlife and game trails for every type of wildlife. They can travel in the security and the safety of this dense cypress forest. And now we're traversing through a wildlife underpass beneath Interstate 75. You have Picayune Strand State Forest in the south and Florida Panther National Wildlife Refuge in the north. But to a Florida panther or a Florida black bear, it's just all one connected habitat. It just so happens that one of the busiest roads in the country is running right through it. If you look closely in the dirt, you'll see tracks of panthers, bears, bobcats, and white-tailed deer that are crossing safely in either direction. If you look beyond the pillars, you'll see chain link fence. And this is critical to keep the animals off the interstate and funnel them to safe passage below. It's amazing how loud it is, how intimidating. And it just reminds you how incredible our footprint is on these wild habitats. The cool thing is the wildlife still use it. Here we are approaching one of my camera traps on an old logging trail. This is a great place for a camera trap, especially in the wet season, because it's one of the only dry paths. And so terrestrial animals like a Florida panther are not going to go walking around in the marsh if there's another option. And that means there's quite a bit of activity on these old trails. A camera trap is a tool that I use to capture pictures I could never really capture with the camera in my hand. For elusive wildlife like the Florida panther, you can go years or even a lifetime and never see one with your own eyes. A camera trap is basically a studio in the woods. You set up your camera in a waterproof box. You have your strobe lighting for backlighting and front lighting and to illuminate the scene. And then a trigger, which is usually an infrared tripwire or a laser beam that takes a picture when the animal walks through. It's like a selfie for wildlife. The most important part of putting out a camera trap is scouting and finding the right place. But when it works, and when that panther is staring into the camera lens with the palm trees and the cypress and the ingredients that make up these unique South Florida ecosystems, then you have something that can not only capture people's imagination about these panthers, but do it in a way that connects those animals to the ecosystems that we're all trying to protect. Now we're exploring a pond apple potash slough, which looks quite a lot like a cypress swamp. But you'll notice these trees are lower to the water, and their twisted and knurled trunks are host to the highest diversity of epiphytes, bromeliads, and orchids that exist in all of North America. These waters, although black from the tannic leaves, are actually pristine and vital to the health of the Everglades watershed, the estuaries downstream, and to all of us who rely on these for our drinking water. All of these landscapes that we visited are key parts of the Florida Wildlife Corridor. If we're not careful, we're going to divide and fragment the watersheds and the landscapes to the detriment of wildlife and people. The best thing we can do is keep wild Florida connected. That's going to ensure a future for endangered wildlife like the Florida Panther, help the recovery and restoration of the Everglades, and ensure balance in this state for all life and all people living here.